it's harder to do with an older audience because the kids, they're like kids and I pick on them, you know. But I sometimes even have them act it out, you know, like someone tell me about their last argument and we pick people to play the roles. You know what's funny? They can't get mad when they're playing the roles because they know how silly they look. They know how silly they look. They tell you why they got mad, and you figure it all out. You get the detail of the story. You get the people in the classroom to play the roles. They can't get mad again because they've had time to think. They've had time to reflect. In the process of the conversation about the argument, they saw there was other ways to do it. What often feels urgent is not urgent. Like the dishes can sit till tomorrow, and it'll be a better situation than having an argument today, right? Because you'll find a way through it with a little patience. And then, of course, there is right and wrong. There's things that got to be dealt with. There are things that are urgent. You're not going to have time to think. Just going to have to act. And so that's like the pragmatic argument side. Does anyone have any questions about that? Does that make sense? And that's William James. I mean, he's that guy is actually credited for shaping much of American culture with that book. Americans are considered a pragmatic culture of people. Yes?
You know, that concept you just mentioned about the reverse role playing, that it helps diffuse situations. I thought about it, and it would really be helpful to me.
You guys can set this up on your own. You are exactly right. And so, absolutely, this is really helpful. This is used a lot in marriage counseling and in all kinds of places. When you've had an argument, don't hide from it. You know, like, I think of it in terms of like I coach boxing. And, you know, people make mistakes, they especially make mistakes when they get hit. And they fall apart. Their feet aren't in the right position and everything. Their head's running, and it's like, man, that's like the beauty of it. You gotta perform properly after you get hit, right? And the only way you can do that is being honest with yourself after it's all over. You know, my job as a coach is to take a kid after he gets out and to say, this is the honest truth, right? And so when we have arguments, going back through and saying, this was my argument, having the other person say, this was my argument, and really talking about what reacted, what was the first trigger. Because the first trigger is an important trigger, because you lose it in the first trigger, right? You often triggers come in succession, right? But you usually set up the second, third, fourth trigger. You get triggered, and then your actions make it so more of your triggers appear in front of your face, right? We're all used to this. And so the first trigger is the important one. Can you actually find it? Can you actually figure out who got triggered first?
Not after about the fourth one.
Yeah, right. Right, and so like acting out, this is used a lot in marital counseling, meaning that they'll have you like act out your arguments and actually try to get mad at each other and like see what's your expression. People even film their arguments. If you're really brave and you know an argument's coming, film it. You think I'm joking. You will learn more about yourself than you wanted to know. How brave are you? Yes, sir.
My name is Rico, and I had an alcoholic. I record mine, like on my phone, all the arguments that me and my wife have, and I will put the phone down somewhere, and I will get triggered and figure out my trigger.
That's right.
She does.
Find your trigger. If you have a good partner in life, friend, mentor, they'll help you with it without being critical. Like we all got our triggers. There's not a single person in this world that you couldn't catch them at the right moment and play back that video and they would not be embarrassed. Right? We all do embarrassing things. We're all not our best selves from time to time. But then, how do you move forward? Well, it's not from hiding. It's not by hiding from it. Right? You got to get into it. That's right. So acting these things out. I mean, this is a little bit of a bigger class, but I'd love to take on some of that here. Like, I think theater, like plays, incredible. Like, because you get to learn your body language. You get to learn your tone. Yeah. Right. And actually, I think it's really healthy for people to have a venue where they can get legitimately mad. Like yell and scream and fight if you want. Where you're safe. And you don't have to worry about the consequences of those actions actually hurting anybody. So you can get comfortable with it. So you can know yourself. So you can feel it when it's coming. It's not something you're hiding from anymore. Right? And with the little kids, this is like easier for me to do. You know, you get a lot of these like young boys in the 8th, 9th grade, and they're really growing into the fact that they can be strong young men. By the time they get to be juniors and seniors, it's like really hard to break that barrier if they're already in that way, you know? But that 7th, 8th, 9th grade, they're really making that transition, the young men are. And too many feel like their anger is wrong. It's like something bad, and then they accept it, and therefore like, I'm kind of something bad. And I'm comfortable with being something bad because I have this anger and I can't do anything about it. It's like, well, that's not right. There's nothing wrong with the anger. I mean, we're all, like we said yesterday, we're all incredibly dangerous people. The only problem with the anger is when you don't have control of it, when you're not rationing it properly, when you're not being patient, when you're not being a disciplined person, when you're not taking on responsibility willingly without people having to ask. And then often, good aggressive people are helpful, like that situation in the gas station. Like that poor woman, she didn't deserve a second of that. Right? And what happens if I'm not standing there? Right? And then did the world somehow become a better place? Is that guy going to go to the next gas station and have the same problem? Is there a chance that he'll remember that didn't work out so well last time? And no one got hurt. I don't know. Again, lots of gray area. You guys know what I mean when I say gray area?
Yeah.
Like there's no right and wrong. Like, actually I shouldn't say that. There is right and wrong. But there's no line. Like I really like that lecturer Jordan Peterson, and when he talks about like the best you got is to not have resentment in life. That's the best. And so if something happens in front of you and it's a somewhat urgent situation and you take a second, you think it through, you care about the people around you, you give up a little piece of yourself, and you do your best, and it doesn't work out, it doesn't mean it's not tragic. It doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. But it does mean you don't have to have resentment. Right? You don't have to resent because you did the best with what you had at that time. Yes, sir?
When I was married, you brought up an incident about conflict resolution.
Yes, sir.
Well, when I was married, me and my wife were going through a marriage council. And they had us to bring pillows in, and we used to hit each other with the pillows.
Yeah.
And what that did, that brought out a lot of frustration or hidden anger on the other person. So, because at first it starts off, just a little tap, then a little tap, then it builds up. But it also releases unwanted energy. That's the way the therapist described it. Unwanted energy towards that person.
Right. That's right. Right. Like, I mean, how humble can you be? Right. That's the other question. Like, what's the limit? Right. Like, I'll tell you, I'm not good at it. I mean, this morning was a great example. Just the simple fact that it took me 15 minutes to send a polite text means I'm not that good at it. But at least I took the 15 minutes, so I might not be so horrible, Like, I feel like if you were really good at it, I would have looked at that text this morning and gone, all right, I get it. She's upset about all kinds of stuff that isn't even what she's talking about. It's okay, send an it's okay text and been fine.
But you got over 20 videos of yourself.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
I had to mention that now.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You just keep working towards it. That's another thing Jordan Peterson says. He said too many people stand around in life, they don't know which way to go. Right? And if you're not doing hard work, you're not going anywhere. You're staying still, if not going backwards. Things roll downhill with no hard work. Right? So the best you got is to pick a direction that you think is the best direction and fight for it. And if somewhere along the line you realize you're wrong, pick a different direction. But don't stop. Right? Like the observer, sitting back and watching yourself. I mean, it's just literally sitting still. Imagine if someone was watching you, what would they see? Right? Like that deep understanding of we do not know ourselves. Human beings are massively complicated. Every single one of us is a massively complicated human. And very little of it's on the surface. Like I can see your face, I can recognize your face, but that ain't you. You know, I get some expressions, you get some things, and then we get a little more, right? But like, how well do you know yourself? And realize if you really think you know yourself, then you have to know what you would do if something happened. That's knowing yourself. If someone comes up to you and hits your trigger they hit that trigger like perfectly, what do you do? For good or bad?
Right.
If you know the answer to that question, you know yourself better than most. Right? But most people are in too much denial, they're too hidden. And so, but what you can do is you can see that trigger get pushed, and you can have the courage to step away from it and say, I'm not going to let that go. I'm not going to sweep that under the rug. I'm not going to pretend like that didn't happen. I'm going to sit there and think through what I did, why I did it, where that trigger was, what I could have done differently. Go home and work on my breathing exercises. Let that anxiety spike. Don't push that anxiety away. You know, when you do something that you know you shouldn't have, and something in the back of your head, you reacted wrong, that anxiety spikes, and the first thing in your head says, get rid of that thought. That's just weakness. That anxiety, you earned that anxiety. That is yours. You earned it. Keep it until it's gone. Because otherwise you'll have resentments. Let it stay. Process. Be strong. I say be alone a lot. Like a lot of people, I'm bad at that. That's my reminder to myself, be alone. Because when my anxiety is too high, I have a tendency to want to surround myself by people, and I'm not my best self in that environment. So go be alone until you're in a better place. Right? And so, this idea of right and wrong, the pragmatic argument of what is right and wrong. If it hurts your feelings, it doesn't make it wrong. If it makes you uncomfortable, it doesn't make it wrong. There is morality in their principles. That's the only thing that makes things wrong. We don't mistreat people, we don't disrespect people. Sometimes we disrespect people when, like, in extreme circumstances, and it's okay. Right? Sometimes you have to get things done. Right? But in general life, we shouldn't be disrespecting people, even if they disrespect us. Right? Because it's the best chance you got. It doesn't make you wrong. Someone comes up to you and disrespects you, and you give them the middle finger and tell them whatever, you're not wrong. But you're also not effective. You didn't change anything. You made your life worse. You didn't help that person. Now you're walking around with all this resentment and anger. It just didn't get better. We're better off being humble. You know, use these examples like, what if someone, you know, I ask people what their triggers are. You know, what if someone comes up to you in the street and says something, someone you don't even know, and says something to you that's so aggressive and so wrong. Like just that scenario. I mean, we can manifest on this stuff. I mean, most of us men, we can think about that. You almost fantasize about it when you're angry, right? I wish someone would so I could just get some of this aggression out of my system, right?
I didn't do that. Sure you got it.
Yeah, right. We all do it. But like, let's be honest. If that does happen, the person that came up to us is hurting. They wouldn't be acting like that if they weren't. They might not have even gotten a fair chance at life. I mean, a lot of us, I'm sure a lot of you didn't get a fair chance at life. I'm spoiled as hell. I'm not even going to talk there, right? But like,
Your fault.
right, it's her fault. But like, someone still had it worse. Right? What if they never were raised with the opportunity to learn to look people in the eyes without feeling angry? What if they were never raised with the opportunity to learn how to manage a conversation? What if they never learned how to treat a woman, and now they've been alone their whole lives, right? I mean, people can get in really, really, really bad places, and now they happen to be in front of you, and you're going to use that as a reason for you to be upset? It's like, see what I'm saying? Like, being right and being effective are entirely different things. And that is what the word pragmatic means. We're no longer trying to be right. We're taking in the forest. We're recognizing who's running around in circles. We're breathing. And we're making decisions that are thoughtful, meaning like, my right and wrong, my ego doesn't matter. There are more people, there's more at stake here. Right? If I leave this situation feeling good about myself, even if I didn't help the person standing in front of me, I'm more likely to help the next person I meet. Because I'm not going to be that person that needs to vent. I'm not going to be that person that needs to lean on someone so much. I mean, sometimes, yeah, but it can't be the daily. You got to stand strong, and people got to see you standing strong so they know they can lean on you. Right? And that's like the definition of a good life. The more people that depend on you, if you don't wake up in the morning, and the more people that know you didn't wake up in the morning, the better your life gets. Right? People got to depend on you.
Wake up in the morning, or don't wake up in the morning. I'm like, wait a minute.
Right? Yeah, I slept in today. It felt great. I didn't get to sleep till on time, but man, I'll tell you what, that was incredible. I haven't had that opportunity in a long time. Yes, sir.
Okay, you know what you were just saying about the right and wrong and everything? I went to therapy, and I had a psychiatrist, and she asked me a really simple question. She said, you said, and I was venting about something I was angry. She said, what if somebody walked up to you and just slapped the crap out of you? What would you do? Oh, I'd jump up and do this. I said, yeah. She said, but you know, you always have a choice. You have a choice. People would expect you to do that, but you have a choice. You don't have to jump up and do whatever. You don't have to curse this person out. You always have a choice in those situations. Now, always remember that.
That is right. You know, that's right. Like, how tough are you? Not just physically, but emotionally. Because let's just take that scenario. That's a classic one. If someone just walks up and does the most physically aggressive. So we usually categorize it into physically and emotionally aggressive. So we don't bring up the physically strong for women very often. But yes, as a man, you see yourself as a man. You see yourself as one of those strong people. You see yourself as a pillar. And someone's going to walk up and smack you in the face. And that's going to shake your whole foundation to the point you lost all control of yourself. Is that really is that the strength we're talking about? Or is it the person that gets smacked in the face and soaks up that pain, looks the person across from him and says, can I be helpful to you? Right? I'm not saying let him smack you twice, but like, you know what I'm saying? But there's I'm going to get you one second. The Kingston Trio has a song about that, right? It's the man, there's a song by the Kingston Trio, and I can't remember it, but the man walks into the church and smacks the preacher. And in the song, the preacher's a big, strong man. And, the chorus of the song is, you got to walk that lonesome valley. You got to walk it by yourself. Oh, nobody else can walk it for you. You got to walk it by yourself. Right? And that's what the preacher sings to the man who smacked him. Right? Like, I'm not mad at you. But now you've put yourself, by smacking me, you've separated yourself. You've put yourself a little bit alone. So you have to go be alone, and you're going to have to deal with that now. Right? Because if the preacher reacts, he validates the person that smacked him, didn't he? Someone comes up and smacks you, you fight back. Right? What were you going to say? I'm sorry. I didn't mean
Well, you were talking about emotional type of stuff. Like, I heard another human being, I did my time, but talking about the emotional and the feeling part or whatever, and the anger that was built up inside. That's something that I had to deal with, and it cost me 3 years. So, and I forgot what I was going to say. Wow. Well, I guess that's pretty much now. I forgot what I was going to say.
Well, right. And I mean, like there's all these, you know, I watch a lot of YouTube videos, but not the ones that people think, you know. There was a video of a woman, she was actually a Muslim woman, and she was living in Chicago, and her 14-year-old son was shot and killed outside her apartment. For not intentionally, they were trying to shoot somebody else, and he got killed. They caught the guy that fired the bullet, and he was on trial. And that kid's mom, the mom of the child that died, went to every trial. She forgave that man the day he walked into court. She said, you know, she stuck by his side, and that man went to prison for that crime, and she stayed by his side in prison and made sure that he did not feel alone in this world. And you're like, man. Right? Like it goes back to that Anne Frank's parents thing. Sorry, not Anne Frank's parents, Anne Frank's savior. We don't need to know anything more than that. Those are good people, right? Like if someone kills your son and you go out and kill them, you ain't wrong. You're not. You didn't do it. What's that? Maybe. Depends. But you certainly weren't effective. You didn't make the world a better place in the process. You didn't make yourself in a better place.
When you look at like your spirituality on that one, yeah, I say, you know, he just said you be right, but then in your I'll put it like you're the spiritual person. Your spiritually you'll be, you know, feel bad and it'll hurt you some. But you know, but you figure you're right, and you have a dilemma. Put it that way. You have
a dilemma, right?
Dilemma. And then on the other thing you were just saying about somebody walking up and smacking you.
Yes, sir.
Remember yesterday you had to do that. Your brain, you think.
Right.
Think about what you're gonna do next. That fraction of a second. But what you're gonna think about. So that'd be that. I'll put that in that scenario. You think about what you're.
Yeah, that's right. But see, isn't that the point? Like people always say, like I think they get the misconception of these types of talks. Like what we're talking about is being brave and strong. That is exactly. We are not talking about anything else. Now, how we do that is incredibly important. But brave and strong. Yeah, if someone smacks you and instantly you lose all control of your thinking mind, and all of a sudden you're just reacting. I'm sorry, that's just not the brave and the strong. That's not the brave and strong response. Now, you know, there's obviously a limit. Someone puts a gun in your face, like you don't have the time no more.
Right.
You're not safe no more.
That's life and death. You know, that's
now, you know, all cards off the table, right? And so where we draw that line takes strength and courage. Like, did someone smacking you in the face? Is this person about to pull a knife? Is this about to escalate? Is this about to be something that I have to manage? And if it's not, then being strong and patient is by far the strongest and most courageous thing you can do.
Yeah, 'cause my buddy was sitting right here next to me. He just said, what about, I said, you let somebody smack me? He said, you don't know what it is, you know, like that, you know.
I said,
like
they
that.
already have a problem.
Right.
If somebody's aggressive towards you, they got a problem already. So, you know, you got to look at that. Why is this person doing this?
Right. But guys, let's also realize these exercises are good, like the extreme situation. This is what we call extremes, right? The exercise in the extremes is healthy, but realize the large majority of everything we're dealing with is not at the extremes. It's all the way in that gray space. And so, like, the real truth is, the next time you get mad is not going to be because someone smacked you in the face. So you have to be honest with yourself. What is going to be? You know, that's a great question to ask yourself. The next time I get mad, what is it going to be that makes me mad? Right? If you can answer that question, you're definitely getting closer to knowing yourself. Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, most of the things you're talking about is either bringing up fight or flight.
That's right.
You know, and that's the only thing you can think of that quick. You know, because you're not going to sit there and somebody slap you and then think about why didn't he do
No. So all right. No, that is right.
Right.
So fight or flight is your ancient brain. I mean, you know, you got like the deepest part of your brain right at the center where your nerve stems all come together. Your eyeballs, everything, they're all connected to that very, very, very simple part of your brain that's just going to give you one of 20 emotions. We're a little more complicated than a dog. A dog knows fight or flight. We got a bigger profile of flavors in there, but the idea is right. But here's the thing. We're different. We're humans. we can interrupt that. We can interrupt that. And that is just discipline, focus, and strength. Yes, sir.
You know, being all of us addicts, pragmatism is probably the polar opposite of what made us successful addicts. And the reason I say that is because our addiction involves the lifestyle and the high we're looking for, which is the opposite of everything that pragmatic defines. Okay, so we're always looking for the buzz that we want to get. We're looking for that lifestyle. When I talk about that, I mean the buzz the adrenaline rush we get when we're trying to avoid the police. The anticipation of getting the drug, doing the drug, that's the exact opposite of pragmatism. That's why a lot of, with me especially, and I'm assuming it's, I'm not sure to assume, but there's a lot of us in here, that's like super, super hard because it's a complete opposite of what our addiction has taught us to survive out there for 20 years.
Well, guys, listen. It's hard for the majority of people. There are some people that have this demeanor and they go through life with this, you've met them, they have this nice little ambiance and they speak and they have their thing and they just, you know, and I'm glad those people exist, but it ain't me. I have to fight for it every day, right? And I might not have to fight for it as hard as other people do, right? But like, one of my favorite quotes, Bruce Lee. Who here loves Bruce Lee? Come on, give some Bruce Lee love, right? Bruce Lee, one of my favorite quotes, he said, never wish for an easy life. Wish for the strength to deal with a difficult one. Right? Like, don't even let your brain go there. There's no part of you that should say, oh, my life's so hard. Well, good. My life's so hard, thank you. What? I hope I make it. Am I good enough? Am I strong enough? That's the Bruce Lee. I love that man.
Yeah, mine don't be the cup, be the water in the cup.
What's that?
Don't be the cup, be the water inside the cup.
Yeah, don't be the cup, be the water inside the cup. Right. Take the form. So, I did want to cover one other topic, and I don't know if you guys want to take a break first or not, but if you guys would give me permission, I'd like to cover one other topic that's a little, I think it's a little more fun. You want to just go into it right now? Or you want to take a break for a second? Because a good argument should stand alone without a person. If you say something that is that important and that profound, it should be able to be said by anybody and still hold true. Right? And then we have people, because there's a person that presents the argument. And so, in reality, we can't have a conversation without the two getting mixed up at least a little bit. So the straw man argument is, like, instead of listening to your argument, I'm going to look at you. And I'm going to pick you apart. And because now that I've proven that you don't have the right to be talking to me that way, your argument's no longer important. See what I'm saying? Yeah, certainly. All politicians do this. Politicians do this incredibly well, right? Like, I don't want to answer your question, so instead, you know, you say, last night when you said that to that man, that wasn't right. And I say, well, last week when you were in the hallway, I saw you.
I hate when people do that.
That's straw man.
I hate so that's what it is.
That's a straw man
It's just like arguing with your wife and, oh, you did this, so I'm gonna do it too.
All those things, right? Because
I hate that.
because if you were focused on the argument, right? If you came to me and said, what you said to that man last night wasn't polite, it shouldn't matter who said that. It either was or it wasn't.
Right.
And I have to take my inventory and be accountable for myself, or I can choose not to. Right? But arguing with the person that told me is if somehow I can invalidate that person, and therefore after I do that, my actions were okay.
Trump was good for that.
Again, all politicians are really good at this. Yes, sir.
So that's more like deflecting the issue.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that fall under that straw man argument, right? There's a lot of strategies people use. The straw man argument's like the big category, and then under that category, there's just a lot of different ways people do it. But as long as we focus on the identity of the person and not the argument, we're in a straw man argument, right? And so the opposite of the straw man argument is called the steel man argument. And so the steel man argument, when someone says something that I disagree with, or that I don't know if I agree with, or that makes me feel uncomfortable in some way, then I want to hear more about it. You say that what I said was disrespectful. Why do you think that? What did you see in me? What did the other person, from your perspective, right? And now that when I hear all the pieces and I can patiently find that space, breathe properly, and relax, then my argument should be based on your argument, not on you, but on your argument. That's a steel man argument. And if we get to the bottom of things, right, this is how we do it. You know, I love the dishes one because we've all, I mean, I don't know. For me, that's always been one my whole life. So dishes are great conversation for me. But like, you know, I didn't do the dishes. Well, you don't shovel the driveway. Well, you know, it's like, we can do this forever, right? But the steel man argument's the same thing from a different perspective. You're right. I don't do the dishes. Do you see other things that I do that you don't do? Right?
What like technically separates an argument, a debate, and a conversation?
What's that?
What's like the technical differentiation between an argument, a debate, and a conversation? Like what turns one into the other?
All right. First of all, I love the word argument because I'm an academic. An argument, by the definition of an argument, is something that's believed to be logical that someone else is presenting to somebody else. So if I'm saying I believe that this is a complete set of information, all this information fits together, and it makes sense. That's my argument. Now, that's my argument before I've said anything. The argument already exists. We all have them in our heads. We all have arguments in our heads. They're a way we can defend what we believe is right. That's our argument.
Right.
And now, if I present my argument to you, there's nothing wrong with that. Now, how we present the argument to someone is incredibly important, and accepting other people's reactions to our arguments is incredibly important.
Because one can turn the argument into being argumentative.
Right. Yeah, being argumentative, by definition, means we're throwing logic away.
Okay.
Because I have an argument, and if all you want to do is find all the holes in the argument, which can be helpful, right, in helping me clarify my argument, you
Correct.
look for holes in it.
Correct.
But if we're friends, you're going to find value in something I said. There's going to be encouragement, right? Like, I think you're on the right track, or maybe you're completely off the right track, but I appreciate that you're trying, right? There's going to be encouragement, power, and a lot of things that come out of those arguments. And if we're just argumentative, that's an ego game.
Yeah. But you also want to try to find validation, though, right?
Well, validation is difficult, right? If you're looking for validation, then you're going to lose track of your logical argument.
That makes sense.
Right? If you need someone to tell you, yes, you're right, yes, validation can come.
It can be falsified, too, though.
We all need validation. Like, I walk around in this world, if everyone in the world decides they don't like me and no one wants anything to do with me, I'm not going to live a productive life. I'm not going to live a rewarding life. I'm not going to feel like my best self. Right? But like, looking for validation of an argument is different.
Right.
Right? Like we say, when we argue, we got to take the argument and put it aside. But when we bond, we're taking the arguments and put them aside. Like, we're humans. We can interact without any of that. And then when we have our arguments and we present our arguments to each other, we can do it in a structured way. We're being pragmatic. We're recognizing, did anyone really cross a right and wrong boundary? How much of this is just me needing to feel good about myself, me needing to feel validated?
Right.
Are there pieces of my own weakness that are making the situation not, and where can I be strong, where can I take on responsibility, and what can I sacrifice? Right? If the dishes really got to be clean every day, and that's going to stop the argument in the house. You know, one time, because I got in this argument for a while, in this last, my fiance left a little while ago, but I got in this argument with her for a while, like a year ago. And one day, I just walked in the kitchen, I set a timer, I grabbed my daughter, brought her in there, and said, let's clean the whole kitchen, let's just make it spotless. And it was an over the top, more than I usually do. 25 minutes.
Wow. But my question is, how long did y'all have that argument?
Right, too long.
Yeah.
I could have been doing that 25 minutes a day of work that whole time. And I would have lived a more peaceful life. I wouldn't have lost sleep over it. I would have had time with my kids cleaning the kitchen. Like, so was I ever wrong? Not really, I guess. But I wasn't being effective. I wasn't making a better house. I wasn't making a better living environment for our kids. I wasn't, you know what I'm saying? Right, like somewhere there's just a little bit of work, so it's a sacrifice. All right, I'm just gonna give this 20 minutes a day, every day. I'm not gonna complain about it, it's just part of my routine, it's done. Right? Now, of course, if those types of situations continue, you don't have 20 minutes to give over and over again. Eventually, you are gonna end up in a situation where it's right and wrong. Right? I'm giving everything I got, and it's not enough.
Then it's a problem.
Right, because someone's not respecting you.
Exactly.
Someone's not looking at your life saying,
Right.
this person's clearly at their limit and I need to respect them
Right.
at their limit, you know?
Wouldn't that be when you do it all the time, it becomes overwhelming, and then you start thinking that taking it for granted?
Yeah, great. How do you build your life without resentment? I mean, it's just a great conversation. And again, it's all the way in the gray area. All the way in the gray area. If you don't have, if you want to not have resentment, then you need to stand up for yourself. You need to set boundaries that make sure that the people you're closest to actually respect you. Because there's no sense in spending your life around people that don't respect you. Right? And so that can be incredibly difficult. Right? But then you have to say what you feel is important to be said. But you don't have to say it right now. There's time. In any of these relationships that are valuable to you in your life, there's time. I mean, I still talk to my ex-fiance. She's the one that texted me this morning. Right? There's time. We got time for all these conversations. What's your limit, right? I tell her all the time, no one cares about you the way I care about you, because I care about you whether you're here or not. Right?
That's real. Overuse that.
Right.
Overuse that. That's
Right.
true.
Like you go right. I mean, there's true value in that, and there's strength in that.
And you're being honest.
A lot.
And you're being honest.
Right. Right.
Especially if you say it in the middle of an argument and she thinks she's right about something.
Well, but that's where you have to be careful, right?
And you
Right.
can use that in a lot of different ways. And get,
Right.
well, you can use it with the intention of affecting in a different way.
Well, but we got to be really careful about that argument, like what you just said, right? Like in an argument.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm telling you, the best thing you can do in an argument is stop worrying about whether you're right or wrong. And I'm not saying I do this. I'm not trying to take the high horse, but I
That's the
believe
best
this.
thing to do.
I believe this.
Yeah.
The best thing you can do in an argument, don't worry about your ego. Keep your head high. Stay strong. And inventory. Do your best to figure out what is going on in the other person.
And like sometimes, I stress sometimes the best response is none at all.
You know, I find that often the best response is to remind people that I know they're upset because they care. I get that you're upset with me, and I don't see that that's necessarily a bad thing, because if you didn't care,
You wouldn't be mad.
you wouldn't be upset with me in the first place. So at least we have that. Yes, sir.
I mean,
It's good to let somebody vent also, instead of
I mean,
cutting
you
them off.
vent too, actually.
Let them speak their piece, and you just, so you can see exactly where they're coming from. Because if you interrupt them while they're venting, you really don't find out what the actual problem really is.
Exactly. Well, what's the strong? I mean, I'm sorry. I've come from that boxing community a little bit, and like, one of my favorite mentors is still one of those hard-headed boxers. And you know, like Bob would say, what's the strongest thing you can do right now? Ask yourself that. What is the strongest thing I can do? And if someone is telling you things you don't want to hear, by far the strongest thing you can do is be silent and listen. And really listen. You'll learn what people, first of all, you'll really learn what people think of you.
Exactly.
Right? And if there are people that really don't respect you and you've been doing things to keep people that don't respect you in your life, then you need to go find a mirror. Right? That doesn't have anything to do with them. You don't have any reason to be mad at that person. You've invited them into your life.
So you look at yourself.
Right. And you might have to make some hard decisions, right? Maybe not everyone likes those decisions.
And then he said, I'm trying to get it right. He said something about, John? He said something about letting them vent without interrupting. But sometimes you can't let them vent because sometimes they venting sometimes to the person you're talking to. They need to vent in another way instead of venting towards you. I would think so because.
Well, it depends on who you are.
Right.
There aren't very many people. There's a lot of people that choose to vent to me. You know, I taught high school for a while, and I had this one student, Brianna, and she was a firecracker. And she come to class so tired some days. I'm like, I know she's staying up all night. I mean, I don't know, you know. And she had a real personality to her. And early in the year, it was in a pretty difficult school. Early in the year, I called on her for a question. And she just, you know, stuck her middle finger up in the air, from her head down on her desk. And I said, "Thank you, Brianna. We'll get back to that later." You know, as I do. You know, I taught school for 6 years. I never once sent a child to the principal's office. I'll give you examples. I had a student one time. She was arguing with another student, and all of a sudden, I didn't know they were arguing because they were doing it under their breath. You know. I'm usually pretty good at that. I must not have been paying attention. She swiped stuff off the other student's desk, threw it across the room, went down where all the science displays were, because I teach you a science class, ran her, and then went to my desk and threw everything off my desk and ran into the hallway. And she was dropping F-bombs, like yelling at everyone. I ran out in the hallway, and I caught her, and I was like, Kendall, we have to make a decision right now. You can tell me you're going to walk in the hallway peacefully for 5 minutes, and be back here, or I have to do things to make sure you're taken care of because I gotta go back in that classroom. Those are your options. She said, I'll be back in 5 minutes. I said, you realize if you're not back in 5 minutes, I have to make phone calls. She said, I'll be back in 5 minutes. This is as close as I ever came to calling the principal. And you know what? I walked back in the classroom and I said, listen guys, Kendall needs us today. I don't know what's going on, but she needs us. We need this classroom to look perfect again right now. If it's broken, get it in a trash can. If it's not broken, get it back up, make it great. My desk, everything. We all pulled it together. 2-3 minutes later, we got the whole room back in order. We go back to class. We move Kendall's seat. Kendall came back in 5 minutes later. We gave her seat back. Right? There's like always a solution. And in fact, those two girls that were arguing became friends again by the end of the week.
They had corporal punishment when I was coming through.
Right. There's different ways. But yeah, this idea of really breaking down the straw man argument, we all do it. We all do it. We assess people. We do it even if we don't do it with our words. Especially when people are critical of us. The most valuable time, right? Like hardest things to accept, you don't know yourself. And in fact, even though I don't know any of you that well, I know something about all of you you don't know. And in fact, all of you know things about me that I don't know. Because you see me, I'm looking out, you're looking in. So if you're gonna disrupt the criticism coming to your life, you're just choosing to be blind. So when you say, should they be saying it to someone else? It depends, right? Who are you? Does this person know you, right? Like, is there anything you can't say to the priest? There's no one else you shouldn't be saying it to. Like, we all recognize there's these people that anyone can come to. And again, what's the difference between a monk and a normal person, or a priest and a normal person, right? I'm not asking for anyone to be that, but just recognize it's there, right? You can be that person. So if someone wants to vent to you, then that's an incredibly kind thing to sit there and listen to someone when they vent. That's an incredibly kind thing. If someone wants to vent to you about you, not only is it kind, it takes courage and strength. Right? And then in the mix of that, realize there is no respect in talking to people that do not want to listen to you.
Right.
There is no respect in that. You are disrespecting yourself. If you are trying to talk to someone who is not ready to listen to you, you are disrespecting yourself, and there's no one to blame but yourself for that. So if someone wants to tear into you and cut you down and vent, and you want to stand there strong and tell them when they make good points and tell them the ones you disagree with, and you can do that calmly, I mean, there's power in that. And if you can do that without defending yourself because they don't want to hear it, I mean, to some extent, that kind of sounds right, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sounds logical.
Now doing it, saying it, doing it. But you see, you kind of get the, there's a path there. There's something there that's precious, and we can hang on to it. Yes, sir?
There's also, you mentioned about assessing people. I think that's a natural thing for everybody to do. Anytime you go into someplace, you're assessing people who are around you in some fashion, form, or manner. So I don't...
Survival, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, to some extent, we got it, right? To some extent, we have to, but we also have to recognize that, humans are just so complicated, right? And so, in a new environment, you walk in, here, I don't feel like I have to do that at all. I'm not in danger. No one's, I don't, you can really open up, right? And then in other situations where you're in public situations, where you're in uncomfortable situations, you have to, because it's survival instinct.
Right.
Who knows who Daryl Davis is? You guys heard of this guy? He's one of my favorite examples. And again, he's a controversial person. Not everyone agrees with what he does. And I'm not asking you to agree. I'm saying I find him one of my personal heroes. Daryl Davis is a blues musician in Tennessee. He's a big black man. Speaks in a deep voice.
And plays guitar.
I don't know what he plays because I only watch his lectures. I should go track down his music.
Now, he's a lecturer?
He became one.
Oh, okay.
So he was raised in a family of acceptance. He has a lot of interviews with Daryl Davis. He became famous. You get he was really raised in a fortunate situation where his parents taught him to get along and to respect people, and grew up a good, strong man. He's a blues player. And he was at a concert where he was playing, and he sits down next to a white guy. He starts talking to him. He says, "You should come to my next show then, if you like the music." And the guy says, "Well, I can't. I'm not gonna." He said, "Why?" He said, "Get in a conversation." The guy's an active KKK member. Right? Immediately, people say things like that, and your head starts running, right? There's a lot of things Daryl can do that we could all say are not wrong. We'd all agree with. We probably support him. But what Daryl did was entirely different. He said, "I don't understand. Right? You're sitting here talking to me. This doesn't seem like a hateful conversation to me. I'm lost. Can we come to my house for dinner or something?" And so he does. He makes friends with the guy. Invites the guy over for dinner. Really fast, the guy decided not to be a KKK member anymore and actually gave Daryl Davis his robe and apologized. Brought him his KKK robe and gave it to him and apologized.
Shit. Cool.
Well, here's where it gets crazier. Daryl's like, if it was that easy, right? So you know what he started doing? He started asking to be invited and speak at KKK rallies. I am not joking. I am not joking. Look it up. This is a true story. He went to KKK rallies and started getting integrated into the KKK as a black man. And there's a picture of him, a famous picture of him, standing in front of a wall of KKK robes. And I mean a wall of them.
That they gave to him?
Those are all men who met Daryl Davis and realized they were on the wrong path in life and fixed it.
That was real.
That is legit.
That's power, actually.
That's so,
That's power. That's
like,
real
doesn't
power.
it like it gives me goosebumps even to tell a story over and over. I mean, I've told this story more times to more classes and more people, but like I find like that's like all the way up there,
That's power.
right? And then like, and so when we go back to this right and effective, right? Like to be right, all you got to do is point a finger and say something. No sacrifice. How you might even feel good about yourself for doing it. Being right is just selfish. It's just selfish. It feeds your ego, makes you feel good about yourself, and took no sacrifice. See, what Daryl Davis did is he never worried about being right.
Being effective.
And he made a huge sacrifice. And he was brave. Right?
Brave
Braver than you. You know that? Could you imagine? Could you imagine, right? What the bravery this man has, but then that bravery coupled with sacrifice? And like, and that he was so generous with what he was given. He happened to be raised by this incredible family that taught him how to stand as a proper man. And then instead of putting people down that couldn't do that, he went out and put himself in the world and taught people how to do that. Right? And so like, and I mean, there's endless examples like this. I like that one because it's close to home and it's relatively recent. Daryl's still alive and well. I think he is anyways. I haven't looked at him in a year or so. But he has a whole thing. He travels the whole country, speaks to high schools and goes around. And he's just become, you know, an important figure in American culture. So we'll wrap this up. I want to recap just like what we went through today. One time back through. Pragmatic argument. It takes context. You can't have an argument with someone if you don't know why they're arguing, you don't know what they're arguing for. I don't mean like if the dishes are clean or not, but like how does it affect them personally if the dishes are clean or not, right? It's a deeper level, right? Proper, you have to find the space to have the argument. You can't be arguing while triggered. Arguing while triggered is unproductive. Arguments in general are incredibly productive because we have to get to the bottom of things. Compromise and sacrifice. That's all you got. Take on responsibility, make your compromise, don't build resentments. You can give so much, but you can't give everything. You can't give everything to everything. You can give everything to one thing, but then all you got is one thing. Right? So know your limits, speak clearly, defend yourself, and if you find yourself in a situation where you feel you're not being respected, realize you probably put yourself in that situation. So you don't need to be upset with somebody else over it. That make sense?
Yeah.
And then I really like this idea of the straw man versus the steel man.
Yeah.
Right? If you ever find yourself, someone says something to you that made you really upset, you need to ask yourself, is it the person who said it, or is it what they said? Because those are two completely different things. Because if we want to argue about what was said, then it better be what was said that we're arguing about. And if we want to argue about the way it was said, or the respect, or the things that are outside of the logic, then we need to make sure that we understand that's what we're talking about. And if we're in that category that's outside of logic, then we got to realize we only got two things. We got cries for love, and we got gestures of love. And that's all you're capable of giving either. And so if you can maintain composure, then all you should be offering is gestures of love. Something like that. Does that work?
Yeah.
Well, there are two more stories about dishes that you need to hear.
Say it.
I get online one day on Facebook. This was back when Quentin, his son, was about 4 or 5. And here's Quentin washing dishes with the biggest smile on his face I've ever seen. So I called Jason. I said, why in the world was he so excited about washing dishes? He said, well, he told me he didn't want to clean his room, so I said, okay, I'll clean your room if you'll wash my dishes. But then I'll tell you another story that is true. I taught over at Grace. This would have been probably 5 or 6 years ago, maybe even longer. And we're in the middle of a class. I don't even remember what we were teaching, but someone in the back, you know, every week, guys, you know this. We have someone come in who's brand new, hasn't quite gotten out of the I'm high stage, right? Yeah. And so they'll say something that makes no sense. So this guy in the middle of class said, nobody washed the dishes. Nobody washed the dishes. So I'm sitting there and I said, nobody washed the dishes? He said no. He was upset. I said, well, you have a job for next class. Find out why they didn't wash the dishes. And then I just went ahead and taught the rest of the class, right? Of course, by this time, he's realized what he's done, so he's real quiet. The next day, he comes in, and he sits at right where Jimmy is, except at Grace. He's very quiet, and he did not want to look at me at all. So I started teaching, and in the middle of the class, I said, oh, wait, I forgot. Why didn't he wash the dishes? There was no dish soap. So I told him, I said, you know, sometimes when somebody doesn't wash the dishes, you got to figure out why. You got to figure, was it because they were on KP duty for 30 days and they're not ever washing a dish again? Was it because they got sick and weren't feeling well and didn't want to touch the dishes so you didn't get sick again? Or were they like you are sometimes and just came in and just did not feel like doing their dishes?
Well, here, you know, you guys want another one? This is one I found recently, and I think it's really helpful. It's a job interview question that I saw on a corporate website. People for positions of real power. Like, these are good jobs. These are the ones, you know, if you like working 60 hours a week, this is where you're supposed to be, right? These interview questions, looking up interview questions will teach you a lot about yourself. Like, you know my favorite interview question, and I've gotten it more than once? What do you suck at, and how does it affect the people around you? Oh, that's hard, isn't it? No one likes that one. But answer it for yourself. What are you not good at? How does it affect the people around you? It doesn't mean you can always fix it, but you can focus on what you are good at, make sure that has a balancing act, right? But here is the question they ask people. They say, you're driving, you're in a little bit of a rush, there's a little bit of traffic. And someone comes flying up, cuts you off, you have to hit their brakes, and they're tailgating the person in front of you. What's your response?
My response is to get beside him and blow him a kiss.
Yeah.
That would piss him off. Even worse, because it wouldn't affect me.
It is affecting me.
Do you want?
Because it's always that finger.
Yeah.
My response is just keep going about my business.
Do you want to know the answer that they're looking for?
No.
No.
Go early.
Not nothing.
Be earlier. Wake up earlier.
No.
Get away from that crazy driver as fast as you can.
Here's the answer they're looking for. Is the people who say, I wonder what's wrong with that guy today. I hope he's okay. And I hope no one gets hurt. And I hope this gets sorted out. Right? That's the answer they want, because this is the leaders. Like, what do you want out of a leader? You're going to take someone, you're going to put them in charge of all these people, and they're going to run around and find every offender and yell at them? No, nothing's going to get done, is it? Now, if you start showing you really care and you're finding people and saying what's wrong with you today, and people say they see you coming at a distance and they say, that's the guy who cares, right? And he has to get his work done. Right, everyone knows I got to get my work done. If my work doesn't get done, none of us get paid. Right? So I might be a little harsh sometimes, but on the job site, there aren't people that think I don't care. I cover people. I go argue with money for the boss. I push money down the line much more than I push money up the line. Right? No one should be coming to me thinking I don't care. See what I'm saying?
Right.
So the
I'll work for you.
Yeah.
I would work
Me
for
too.
you.
I'm really hard to worwork for. So if you like working 60 hours a week and you push hard, I'll push you all the way to the top.
For real. I would work.
Because I don't stop.
I really would. No work.
Yeah. These jobs that we work now are a little nuts. You know, on my big weeks, I'm working 80 plus hours a week, and on my light weeks, I'm working 50.
I don't do nothing knowing.
Yeah. Right. And I like that you guys got that gym down here. I tell you, I could come in here more. I love teaching workout classes and all that stuff.
I do that too.
Yeah. So I like that you guys have this space here. Like I was telling people earlier, this is much better. This is just so much better.
Better than Brayshaw, yeah.
Yeah, just so much better. I feel like it's just a better place to be.
I feel like you saw
For any of
a
you who
lot
were
of
not ever at Grace, I was telling
What's that?
someone earlier, we, when we taught at Grace, we taught in the basement. It was on a cement floor with cracks in it. You remember this, Timmy. Had cinder block walls. Every class we taught, one chair would fall apart. One chair would fall apart. We did not have a board, we did not have a table, we did not have anything. And I tell you what, we had some of the finest men you'd ever want there, just like we do here. You guys are tremendous. Thank you for everything you've done. I tell you all the time, you're a far better example if you fall and get back up than if you never fell at all. And it's because of people like you that Jason can do what he does, and I can do what I do, and Timmy can do what he does. Timmy has lived through this. His grandfather runs this place. He runs this place because he's been where you are. And for almost 30 years now, he's been sober and clean and helping other people. They're probably, I don't think I would be remiss to say that there are thousands of people across this country that are well because of him. And if not just because of directly with him, because of someone like you who went out and did the same thing. So thank you for everything you do. Thank you for being nice to my son, and thank you for not telling him when I talked about it.
Well, yeah, I forgot to tell you what you
He
said
ain't
about
up yet. He hasn't left yet.
But you know what we say about you? You the bestest.
Thank you very much.
You the bestest.
Well, I tell you what, he said he was spoiled. He's not spoiled at all compared to what you guys do for me. Thank you. I am rotten.
I'm moving to Virginia in a week. Like, I'm only here for a few days this time.
Okay.
I'll be honest, I really miss living close to, well, this city's different. This is the city, I've been in enough cities. I really like Detroit. Like, Detroit's like different for me. I like the attitude of it. I like the things. And like people say, I can't exactly put my finger on it. I don't really care. But I've worked in like, in a few different places. And Detroit is just where I'm comfortable. Like, and part of that's growing up. I'm horrible. I love to dance. I love to dance like something like it's wrong.
Got that.
And like
right,
when I was young, coming down here was just like, because I'm from Ann Arbor, right? Ann Arbor, they're worried about stuff. They're worried about it. Like people go through their day worried about it. And in Detroit, they go places to worry about things. You know what I'm saying? That ain't the conversation right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like the Detroit culture, they got that. You can just drive from Ann Arbor, walk in someplace, not even know anybody. They usually yell at me for being white or something a few times. And then after you sit down for a minute, you get comfortable, you're just like, this is really comfortable. This is where... And I like that the rules are set up in Detroit, right? If you go out dancing in Detroit, you hang out for a minute, you go somewhere and you're not impatient. Like, there's an active conversation. People aren't hiding from it, right? Like, yes, you can dance with these people, don't dance with those people. Like, and you don't get in trouble. If you're just patient, you chill, you're fine, you know? Where, like, you go to Ann Arbor, and people don't even have a conversation about dancing, so if you ask someone to dance, you probably ask the wrong person. And someone's gonna get mad. You know what I'm saying? Right?
That's deep. Jason, can you carry a tune?
No.
No, we just.
Oh, okay, good. You're just like your mother.
I told them I can't carry a tune in a bucket.
No, I sing to my son and my daughter, that's it. No one else.
Okay.
I don't have to get that to go away.
And that boxer he's talking about is my surrogate
That was
son.
actually Boxer Bob calling.
Yeah, he's the one, he was the one that was here for the
Right.
Toys for Vets. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're great. They're great people.
He used to take Jason and his brother back when they were 11, 12, 13, somewhere in that age group. Used to take them tag footballing and paintballing and all kinds of stuff.
Oh, that
Yeah.
sounds fun.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
And Bob was always this big, you know, and back then they were kind of little. So it got good. I didn't have to worry about them if they were with Bob.
Okay.
Guys, thank you so much. You're really a great crowd. I'll see you next week, okay?
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
That was great. Thank you guys for the space. That was wonderful.
Thank you, Jay.